They're talking to us on our own damn system. They gotta be close. I'll have my men tear this airport apart.
Just in the nick of time, huh?
Hey, McClane, I got a first-class unit here, SWAT team and all. We don't need any Monday morning quarterbacks.
Hey, forget Monday morning. My wife's on one of those damn planes these guys are fooling with. That puts me on the playing field. And if you'd have moved your fat feet when I told you to, we wouldn't be hip-deep in snow right now.
That's it. Security, you're out of here.
Welcome to the first ever episode of Trimming the Movie Fat, the podcast where we trim films from franchises that don't belong. I'm Stephen Nicholson.
And I'm Paul Nicholson.
And yippee-ki-yay, mofos, we're taking on action legend John McClane and his 5 Die Hard movies. Which movies will survive the cull? Die Harder? Die Hard with a Vengeance? A Good Day to Die Hard, which is incidentally the name of Ron Jeremy's autobiography? Keep listening to find out. We'll also share some Die Hard movie facts, provide an overview of each movie, and share our thoughts on each. So joining us on the journey to Nakatomi Plaza are our own 3 action heroes, Davie Mellon, Ross Braidwood and Luke Nicholson. How are you guys?
Fantastic.
So we're kind of a bit COVID ravaged just now, aren't we? So Luke and Davie, you've got COVID. Paul, you're unwell but don't have it. Yeah, so Ross, I think we better steer well clear of these guys.
I've got a hangover, I've got a splitting headache.
Have you?
No, not really.
I was going to say, where are you allowed to go? So, as in preparation for today's episode, I did ask you all to prepare an interesting movie fact to share. So, we'll maybe start with you, Roscoe.
Okay, cool. Right. Start again. Paranormal Activity is the most profitable film of all time. A return on investment of 19,758%. It cost $60,000 to make, $400,000. So that was $60,000 to make, $400,000 to market it, and it made $89 million. I don't know if that's worldwide or just in America, but aye, like you say, just shows you if you can get it right, it can be very profitable.
Not bad. Not bad at all. Paul, do you have an interesting fact?
A Good Day to Die Hard is the first Die Hard film to be based on its own original screenplay and not derived from a pre-existing work.
Okay.
You said Hollywood was out of ideas.
Mm-hmm. Luke, what's your interesting fact?
Clint Eastwood planned to play John McClane.
Oh, really?
That's right, yeah.
Before, what's the other guy called?
Bruce Willis.
Yeah, Bruce Willis.
Oh, didn't know that. Okay. Davey, you got one?
Yep. Psycho is the first US film to feature a toilet flushing.
That's right, yeah.
That's right. My one is that, did you know in the Truman Show, you can see on Truman's kitchen table vitamin D tablets, which when you think about it, he would need because he's never actually been out in the sunshine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You did tell me that. I've stolen it. It's mine. So, guys, other than the gratuitous nudity of William Sadler posing in the mirror in Die Hard 2, do you have a favourite scene from the 5 movies? Ross, we'll start with you.
Oh, no, you've got to ask me that, Stephen.
Throw that at you.
Favourite scene? It's probably the scene with Hans Gruber and John McClane. Just that whole part, you know. It's probably more than one scene, but just where they are together.
You're one of them, you're one of them. Please don't kill me, please don't kill me.
Well played. That would probably rank there in terms of the two main characters coming together.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
excellent stuff. Davey?
I would say it'd have to be the original, where the bank robber terrorist got thrown out the window and landed on the policeman's car, and it all just goes mental over there. And then John McClane's like, "Welcome to the party, pal."
Yeah, no, it's good. Iconic. Luke, what about you?
Probably just like the terrorists just seeing like what they've planned and just taking us through like what they were like planning to do and stuff. I like that.
Yeah. Luke? Sorry, no, not Luke. Paul?
Probably Mr. Takagi won't be joining us for the rest of his life. I just thought it was just hilarious. Just Alan Rick, because it was his breakthrough film. I mean, he was 41 at the time, but I just thought he was just brilliant in it, and that kind of line typified him in that film.
I actually found out, Paul, that was his first film, because he was a theatre actor in England.
Okay.
It was actually his first film, first official film. I found out when I was looking for Die Hard facts. So.
A great debut.
Oh, one of the greatest movie villains of all time.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
Hans Gruber down. And yeah, I think for me, the two that spring to mind, one's a funny one, one's more a dramatic one, but the funny one is, which just always makes me laugh, is from the original. Yeah, it's Agent Johnson. No, the other one, you know.
yeah.
But yeah,
I like how that made a reappearance in Die Hard with a Vengeance. Or was it Die Hard 4.0?
That's right. No, I think it was the first. Yeah, it's 4. Yeah, it's Agent Johnson.
Agent Johnson, and he just looks up like, what?
Yeah, that's right. But the other,
the Die Hard purist.
well, my overall favourite scene is actually when Hans Gruber falls at the end of Die Hard, and do you know what, the special effects for that still hold up today. It's brilliant the way they've done that with Alan Rickman falling there. But yeah, it's such an iconic scene, isn't it? And you get it shown again in Die Hard 3 as well.
Well, they actually dropped him for real in that, like into like a blue screen like airbag. They like dropped him from 40 feet.
Well,
they told him, right, we're going to drop you at like 3, 2, 1, go. But the stuntman told the boy that was holding the rope, like, do it on 1. So it's like 3, 2, 1, and then they dropped him. So he was expecting on a second. And his face was like pure terror, and that's where that came from.
That's great. It's brilliant. It really, really is, because you see a lot of effects where somebody's falling so obviously fake. That looks absolutely spot on still to this day. It really does. Really good, really good. So yeah, that's my favourite, I think, scene. A great end to a great villain. So the Die Hard film series, critically and commercially successful and popular action film series released by 20th Century Fox. The series is composed of the 5 Die Hard films, which are Die Hard, Die Hard 2, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Live Free or Die Hard, or Die Hard 4.0, and the final one, A Good Day to Die Hard, which all follow reluctant hero John McClane as he finds himself in the wrong place at the wrong time and must fight terrorists and save his loved ones. Combined, all films have so far grossed over $1.2 billion from the original released in 1988 to the 5th film's release in 2013.
Mayday, mayday, anyone copying Channel 9?
This channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
You know what you get for being a hero? It's shot at. You are about to have a very bad day. Tell me about it.
Do you really think you have a chance, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, mother.
Are you going to tell me that he's going to give a damn about what you do to him if he makes it out of there alive?
Welcome to the party, pal!
She's just killed a helicopter with a car. I was out of bullets.
I know what I'm doing. Not even God knows what you're doing. You're the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Holy Toledo! Somebody had fun.
Come out to the coast, we'll get together, have a few laughs.
Simon says it's time to talk about each movie. So, before we actually go through the movies in chronological order and just give our thoughts on each, do you guys have a Die Hard fact you can share with us? So I'll maybe kick us off. My Die Hard fact is, do you remember that Bruce Willis he was playing John McClane in the comedy spoof Loaded Weapon, which I think came out in 1993. So I don't think he's called John McClane in it, but he's playing John McClane. It's quite funny. And Samuel L. Jackson was in that as well, who was also his co-star later on in the third Die Hard movie. Davie, you got a Die Hard fact?
Yes, the character John McClane was technically played originally by Frank Sinatra in a movie called The Detective, and Frank asked for I think it was Jack McClellan or something like that was the name of the character, but Frank Sinatra asked the writer of the book to do a sequel, which took about 10 years to write, by which time Frankie Boy was past it, so it got moved on and they changed the character's name to John McClane.
There we go. Good one. Good one. Paul?
Yeah, the guy that plays Ellis, actor called Hart Bochter, and for me he's maybe the best part of the film. Apparently he improvised that famous line, "Hans Booby, I'm your shining knight." So apparently Alan Rickman's confused reaction was genuine, because he just made it up on the spot. So the reaction was authentic. So
John, how can you say that after everything we've been through, John?
And Booby.
Roscoe?
Yeah, so the film Die Hard itself, the film was adapted from a 1979 Roderick Thorpe crime novel called Nothing Lasts Forever.
Thank you. And Luke, have you got one?
My fact is, Die Hard's Nakatomi Plaza is actually Fox Plaza.
That's a good one, yep. So that's
good.
That was under construction at the time, yep. The 20th Century Fox building. It's still there. Obviously not called... They should have renamed it, shouldn't they? To Nakatomi. They just should have.
They've seized a building and taken hostages. One man has managed to escape and is trapped inside.
I'm starting to get a bad feeling up here.
John McClane didn't want to be a hero.
Send the police now!
But he's the only chance they've got. Bruce Willis in Die Hard. 40 stories of sheer adventure. Rated R. Now playing in selected cities. Starts Wednesday, July 20th at theaters everywhere.
I don't remember this count 2, count 3 thing. I just remember that, again, with the benefit of hindsight, I looked at the faces of some slightly incredulous producers when I said that I would do it myself. And it was being dropped from about 40 feet, as I recall. And of course, because this was in the days of, there wasn't any CGI. So it was, let's drop the actor. And hope that he doesn't spin around in the middle of the fall and land on his head and kill himself. They were very careful to make it my very last shot on the film.
And you got just a glimpse there of the guy in the beard. That's Alan Rickman, who plays the villain and who's really the most interesting character in the movie, kind of an intellectual guy with delusions of superiority. Die Hard has a lot of action scenes like the one on the roof. So many of them you're amazed the skyscraper doesn't turn into the towering inferno. They're dropping explosives down the elevator shaft and whole floors are being blown apart. But you can also see there, I think, one of the big weaknesses of the movie, and that's the idiotic behavior of the Los Angeles Police Department. There was one character in this movie, a deputy chief, whose actions are so stupid and so unmotivated and wrong-headed that finally he just brings the movie to a stop every time he opens his mouth. Bad writing. He always says the wrong thing. He understands nothing. And with a movie like this, once you start picking out the loopholes, and there are a lot of them, it doesn't matter how good the stunts or the special effects are, or even how good Bruce Willis is. You just can't stay interested.
I did stay interested because I saw this as really a mano-a-mano between Bruce Willis, who I think is very good in the film, and Alan Rickman, who is really quite devilish and quite sinister and threatening. And I also like the fact that it is held in the skyscraper, so there is some claustrophobia involving this seeming terrorist attack. There's also a biplay relationship between Willis and his his former wife. They want to get that going. She's one of the people that's being captured. But basically, I thought of two guys trapped in a tower trying to fight it out, and I bought the film.
Well, what about all the cops on the ground? What about this deputy
But
chief?
they stay away from them. They stay away from him.
Willis is brought down to the ground,
yes,
which is a miracle considering that all of the elevator shafts have been dynamited.
I followed him all the way through.
The cop is standing there saying, "We're going to bill you for all the damage you've caused."
There are always
you want to groan at things.
There
like
are idiotic cops in the Dirty Harry movies too, and you laugh at them. Come on, because Harry's smarter.
This is not an idiotic cop. This is idiotic writing to make a cop like this when it would have been better if he just pushed the action forward instead of constantly being wrong-headed.
One supporting character, two very interesting lead characters. I like the movie.
So Die Hard, New York policeman John McClane, played by Bruce Willis, is visiting his estranged wife, played by Bonnie Bedelia, and his two children on Christmas Eve. He joins her at a holiday party in the headquarters of the Japanese-owned business she works for. But the festivities are interrupted by a group of terrorists who take over the exclusive high-rise and everyone in it. Very soon, McClane realizes that there's no one to save the hostages but him. So guys, the original movie grossed $140 million worldwide back in 1988, and it was the 10th highest grossing movie of that year. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 94% fresh rating score. On IMDb, it has a 72 out of 100 critic metascore. On Rotten Tomato, for its audience score, it's also 94%, so scores really highly. And on IMDb, audience rating out of 10, it has an 8.2 score, so really good scores all round. And the last thing I'll say is it is one of the most influential films of the 1980s. Die Hard served as a blueprint for action films that came after, especially throughout the 1990s. The term Die Hard on a or in a has become a shorthand to describe a lone, everyman hero who must overcome an overwhelming opposing force in a relatively small and confined location. So it's a recognised classic. Paul, when and where did you first see it, and tell us what you think of Die Hard?
Oh, it's one of my favourite films. It's an absolute classic. And so the first time I saw it was just literally months. Remember we saw it, we got it from our local video shop, Basil and Sons, give them a wee plug there. And so it would have been 1990. And Die Hard 2 was just coming out maybe a month after it. So at that point, when we rented Die Hard, the original movie out, Die Hard 2 was coming out maybe like the month after it. So we wanted to watch that first. I remember me, you and Dad watching it, or Granddad for you, Luke. And we just thought it was brilliant. And then like about a month later, as I say, we went to see Die Hard 2, Die Harder at the cinema. But no, absolutely brilliant film. Absolutely one of the best.
Okay, Roscoe, what about you?
So I seen it. I think it was at my auntie's. Back in the 80s, we didn't really have a video player, and so we would tend to watch films at my aunt and uncle's. generally during sort of summer holidays. So I remember seeing it then, and it probably would have been a year after, because it's normally a year after cinema, isn't it? They came out in video. So it would have been probably 89 that I'd seen it, and that's been it from there. And then obviously there's just been a love for that film. And it's just an absolute classic. I mean, I think it's probably hard to say that anything's better since it's been released in terms of an action film that's a bit far-fetched, but not too over the top, but also very funny. And I think that's the thing that what's probably quite underrated about the film is how actually funny it is. It's got a brilliant script. And another underrated thing is the cameos. It's got loads of these characters that make cameos, whether it be Green T. Robinson, the two FBI guys, and obviously the bad guys as well, and Hans Gruber. So it's just it's a great movie. I'm really struggling to think there's anything that's come close to it in the last 30 years.
Thanks, Ross. What about you, Davie?
I genuinely don't know when the first time I seen Die Hard was. I remember the first one I actually watched in the series was like Die Hard 2 back in Sky Movies, back in must have been the early 90s. It must have been just after it came out, and thought, oh, this is tremendous. Then I think I seen the third one before I seen the first one as well, because that was I actually seen that like when it was out of the cinema, but it was the cinema on a boat a ferry going to France at the time. So what year was that? Was that like 94 or something like that?
95.
95. So
yeah.
So no, I don't think it'd be long after that when I finally got round to seeing the original, and then just loving it so much. The second one was such a great action movie, but then seeing the original, going, this is how it should be done. But so they were probably talking about the mid-90s, and I think I actually won the Die Hard trilogy on DVD for writing into a film magazine to complain about something that they'd done, and I got the letter of the month, and they sent me the Die Hard trilogy. So
nice.
I basically watched Die Hard every Christmas since then.
Nice.
Which you're talking about, that's got to be about 20 years now, more than 20 years.
Very good, thanks, Davie. And we're bringing the youth to the podcast tonight with Luke. So, Luke, you've just watched all the Die Hard movies for the first. You're a teenager. You've just watched all 5 Die Hard movies for the first time.
5 days ago.
Yeah. So you've been studying up for tonight. So tell us what you thought about the original Die Hard movie.
I think it was definitely the best out of the 5 movies, and my favourite part about it, I think, is that he is really just a cop, and he's not like some, big Rambo character. He's just just a policeman, and he's just trying to do his best to take down these terrorists, and that's pretty much it.
So what do you like about the movie?
The characters, I think the dynamic between the main villain and John McClane, I think that's probably my favourite part about the movie, and that's probably my favourite part.
Okay, thanks for that, Luke. For me, I mean, it's arguably the greatest action movie of all time, undoubtedly one of the greatest movies of all time. And Paul obviously already explained when I first seen it, not long before seeing Die Hard 2 in the cinema, and it's just superb. It's like the filmmakers had this cauldron and they threw in all these magical ingredients which mixed together perfectly, and out popped a classic. It's a good bit of fantasy, running around a high-rise office building destroying things. How many of us wanted to work in an office after seeing that, because it must be so exciting working in an office. I mean, it's got a great hero. John McClane. Bruce Willis was born to play the role. He's tough but vulnerable, and he's witty. You know, it's an all-time classic action hero was born here. Alan Rickman is Hans Gruber, one of the great movie villains, smart, evil, and funny. And because you didn't know who he was prior to this, you actually did think he was German. I didn't realise he was English. It's brilliantly directed by John McTiernan, whose previous movie was Predator, and his next movie was The Hunt for Red October. That's not a bad hat trick, is it? So the film looks fantastic, thanks to cinematographer Jan de Bont, who would later go on to direct the action classic Speed, starring Keanu Reeves.
Die Hard on the Bus.
Die Hard on a Bus, basically, yeah. And one of the unsung heroes of the first three Die Hard movies is Michael Kamen. His score for the movies, it's just not Die Hard when it's not Michael Kamen. His score for the movie is brilliant. And obviously you have that great use of Let It Snow, the song Let It Snow at the end, which is really come to symbolise Christmas, even though it doesn't mention Christmas at all in the lyrics. But it's the script and what that gives the supporting cast to work with, which truly elevates it. It's fantastic. Even the small roles are memorable in it, and there's just some great dialogue. We've already mentioned Ellis trying to pretend to be John McClane's friend and getting a Coke after having some Coke. Agent Johnson and Johnson, no, the other one. Thornburg, the reporter, is just a brilliant, sneaky individual. The who's driving the car, Stevie Wonder? And another brilliant character in it, Dwayne T. Robinson. Right, the police captain is bickering with John McClane as comedy gold. Another bit I love, the crack commando unit with the commando pricking his finger.
Oh, the macho guys, yeah.
Ow!
Yeah, I remember
that. Brilliant.
Tough guys and all that, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Just a small thing there. I think what's really, really good about this film as well is that the terrorists are all given their own little moments to shine. They're not just faceless. They've all got their own little character beats. The computer guy, the quarterback is toast, or the boy at reception stealing chocolate, waiting for the commandos coming. The fake receptionist guy talking about the football game and everything. So
the guy looked like Huey Lewis.
Yeah, he really does. They've all got their little moments to shine. So yeah, great story and action, full of quotable lines, and yes, it is a Christmas movie. Absolutely. So we're going to go round everyone now to decide whether it's a prime cut or offal. So does it deserve to remain in the series? So Luke, I'm going to start with you. Should this remain in the series?
It should be the only one in the series. No, that's it. I mean, I forgot.
Controversial.
I forgot the second one. I forgot.
Okay, well, so are you saying Die Hard should remain in the series?
Yeah.
Excellent. Davie?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes, big thumbs up.
Roscoe?
Look, you took the words out of my mouth. Exactly, it should just be one.
Yes.
But yes, definitely. 100%.
It's going to be a clean sweep because, yep, Die Hard should definitely be in this series.
Touching cowboy. Touching.
Cowboy.
So when the original Die Hard came out, they were actually writing the script or rewriting the script at the same time that we were filming it. So they hadn't really figured out a way to how did the bad guys escape. And at the end they came up with the fact that, right, what they're going to do is they're going to blow up the roof and they've got a fake ambulance that is going to steal them away. So the fake ambulance comes out of the back of the truck which they arrive in. But because they hadn't written that at the time, if you watch the start of the movie when all the terrorists come out of the truck, there is no ambulance in that truck.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it would fit in there either.
Well, it did because it came out in the end, but there
Yeah.
was no space for 10 terrorists in the back with an ambulance.
Your wife's plane? They're gonna run out of fuel in 90 minutes.
L.A. cop John McClane is back.
What are you gonna do? Whatever I can.
Because old habits die hard.
We are just up to our neck in terrorists again, John.
On July 4th, Die Harder. Bruce Willis, Die Hard 2, rated R.
Bruce, for you, now here we have a different director, Rennie Harlan. First one was John McTiernan. One is a Brit, one is from Finland. For you, what was the biggest difference about doing Die Hard 2?
Well, you know, it was a very similar experience. Both Rennie and John are very, very talented, you know, in a technical sense. It was a very collaborative effort, and it was the same crew. So it was like the family getting together again. You know, we knew what story we wanted to tell, and kind of went after it. I think the real challenge was seeing whether or not we could top the first film, and I guess that'll be up to someone else to decide. But I like this film a lot.
I really mean that comparison with the James Bond films in terms of entertainment value. Die Hard 2 combines big-scale special effects and also quiet moments with its hero and a solid sense of humor in the style of the Bond pictures. Director Rennie Harlan, originally from Finland, I think he made Nightmare on Elm Street 4 previous to this. Here he's making his major filmmaking debut. He deserves congratulations, I think, for creating a convincing world at the airport. Great special effects involving the control tower and the landing field, and Bruce Willis, that solitary figure out in the snow at night, fighting against the big jets and hordes of mercenaries. Doug Richardson and Stephen D'Souza have written a witty script, too. I was mightily impressed by every aspect of this movie. All I can say after having thought that this summer was not that special is thank you to all involved.
I liked it very much, too. It's not the best movie of the summer. It's not as original as Dick Tracy, for one thing. But it is a very good movie, and one of the things that's best about it, and also scariest about it, is how convincing it is in terms of its aircraft footage. There was a crash in this movie that looked all too convincingly real. I think that this movie is going to be severely edited before it's shown in in-flight entertainment systems. And there's another scene where Willis ejects from a cockpit.
Fabulous.
And you remember the scene? He flies up until his face is a foot from the camera. Like this, and then back down again, and you think, what a place to put, you know it's special effects, but still, what a place to put the point of view. What a great shot. Thank you for going to the trouble of giving us this shot. And I agree with you that the movie, from beginning to end, for my money, is way superior to the original Die Hard, which...
Oh, I like that too, but this is...
It's good, but it's fun, you know.
This is really something special. I sat there aghast with pleasure. Is that possible?
No, but anyway, I know what you're trying to say, yes.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the first shot outside the control tower, and there's special effects involved there, too. This is a terrific achievement.
Now, there are enormous holes in the plot of this movie, of course, including the fact that you wouldn't have the airplane circling for 2 hours, and they could all, of course, use their own radios to reach other ground radio stations, so that the entire crisis at the airport is completely nonsensical, but what the heck?
Well, I bought the picture. That was the one thing that I was thinking, is that they could obviously get to other airports, the other planes that are being held there. But other than that, I think this is superb.
Okay, coming up next, Bill Cosby is Ghost Dad. Sometimes you see him.
Let's move on to Die Hard 2, which was from 1990. So the story for this one: a year after his heroics in LA, Detective John McClane is mixed up in another terrorist plot, this time at Washington Dulles International Airport, where he is waiting for his wife. That same night, South American politico and drug profiteer Raymond Esperanzo, played by Franco Nero, is arriving in US custody. McClane takes action when a treasonous ex-colonel, played by William Sadler, seizes control of the airport, threatening to crash every inbound flight unless Esperanzo is freed. So the gross for this one at the cinema was $240 million. worldwide, which was almost double the take of the original movie 2 years prior. It was the 8th highest grossing movie in the US in 1990, just behind Arnold Schwarzenegger's Total Recall. On Rotten Tomatoes, from the critics, it had a 69% fresh score, which was 25% down on Die Hard. On IMDb, the critics have that as 67 out of 100 on their Metascore. For the audience on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 70% audience score, which is great. And on IMDb, very similar, it's got a 7.1 rating, which is very strong. And there's a bit of a summary. A review here said it lacks the fresh thrills of its predecessor, but Die Hard 2 still works as an over-the-top and reasonably topped big-budget sequel with plenty of set pieces to paper over the plot deficiencies. So, Luke, I'm going to start with you this time. What did you think of the second Die Hard movie?
I think it was a solid action movie. I would watch it again.
Okay, anything in particular you liked about it?
Probably the terrorists again. I just really liked their planning stuff and just how they were controlling the whole airport, and how they were like, I don't know, like twisting what they wanted to do, and yeah, that was probably my favourite part about the second movie.
Okay, thank you for that, Luke. Davie, you a fan of the second one?
Yeah, well, as I was saying earlier, it was actually the first one that I ever saw, and because I didn't have the original in my head, like I totally loved it at the time. Like the acting, the comedy, the changing the height of the runway to like 100 meters below sea level was like it was really tense. So I really enjoyed it from that perspective. It's not one of the ones that I've watched subsequently over the years like I would normally do with Die Hard. So, but I have watched a couple of times, but rewatching it now, it does seem a little bit hammy, and like some of it has gone a bit over the top. Bruce Willis talking to himself, it really sticks out as being not genuine like it does feel in the first film. And I think that's down to having Rennie Harlin as the director of the film, who like notoriously made one of the worst films of all time, and was it Cutthroat Island or something, and he just disappeared off our radar after that. So looking back on it with the other films around it, I would say it's probably like my third favourite at the time. But like even just stuff like they're so obvious when you watch it, when they try to do the fake ammunition, where you see them putting magazines in with like big blue tape around it and then big red tape for it is live. You think, paying more attention to it, like that's just such a giveaway. It's so obvious. You'd think Alec Baldwin might have liked some blue tape or red tape on his gun in his most recent movie where he actually did shoot someone. But no, all in all, it was a great action thriller. But I definitely loved it more at the time when I originally watched it than looking back on it now.
Davie, knock knock.
Who's there?
Rennie.
Rennie who?
Exactly. Right, Roscoe, you a fan of Die Hard 2?
I remember when it first came out, watched it on video and really enjoyed it. And it's probably one of the ones where some of Beverly Hills Cop 2 as well, and you watch it years later, you think it's good, it's solid, it's a decent sequel, but maybe just not quite anywhere near the original. But I mean, it's got similar things. I mean, I think the bad guy is it try to think of is it William Sadler?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who was in Shawshank Redemption. He's actually a pretty decent baddie in it, and that's probably one of the issues with some of the other ones where the baddie's just not strong enough. So I think he's pretty decent in it. The story, I suppose it feels a bit more like a Christmas movie because you've got snow, and it's in winter time, and it's obviously the east coast, the eastern side of the USA. So there's plenty of good parts in it. The shootout in the escalator is pretty decent. The shootout at the almost like the HQ, I think, in the snowmobiles and all that. So there's some good bits in it. And I suppose the best scene for me is the bit at the end when he says "Yippee Kimo Save," and and with a lighter, and obviously that blows up the plane. So that's pretty tasty. Pretty tasty bit in it. So it's got its moments in it, and yeah, it could have been a lot worse than it was. And it's also got Dennis Franz in it. For anybody who watched NYPD Blue, that would have been, he pretty much played the same character after that in NYPD Blue. So he's in that, and I think again probably one of the first or not many films he was actually in. So I remember him being in it, and obviously a lot of swearing. And that was the other thing I realised about Die Hard 2. I think there was more swearing in it than there was in the original Die Hard. But yeah, solid sequel, but not a classic.
I think, Ross, what happened is I can't remember if it was the cinema and the video cuts were slightly different. There was less swearing, if I remember correctly, maybe in the theatrical cut. And then I think the video one maybe put back the swearing and the rating got changed because of that, or vice versa. So yeah. You're right, yeah. Do you remember, Paul?
I think it was a 15 in the cinema and an 18 on video.
No, it was only about, I thought it was only about 9, because I remember watching.
No, it was because I got into it and I wasn't 15. That's how I know.
I think I remember watching it on like either BBC or ITV back in the day when they wouldn't allow swearing on the telly, so they were watching the dubbed version, so I think that's where that Yippee Kimo Save comes from, because that was never in the...
They were brilliant, the dodgy editing,
awful,
hilarious.
Awful. I was going to say, Stephen, actually, just in terms of question around the first thing you watched, the first thing I watched it was actually on Pirate. It was a pirate copy. It wasn't the best copy in the world, so but that was back in the day where you had to kind of rely on that to see things before they were out in the cinema, or you couldn't go see them in the cinema. So that was I remember that as well.
Yeah. What about Paul? You a fan of Die Hard 2?
I think it's good. It's a good film. It's not like, for me, the first film's like a classic. And although you could say it's a Christmas film, it's a film that you could watch anytime really. Whereas the second one feels a bit more, pretty much it is a Christmas movie more. The baddie's good in it, Colonel Stewart. I have to say, the bits about it, the comedic elements, I remember laughing my head off in the cinema, the bit where she says, "Could I have a couple of words, Colonel Stewart? I'll give you 2. I'm not going to mention them here, but it was just really funny. Like just at the cinema, that happening, and I thought it was good. And I think at the time seeing it as well, it was quite recent from the first one. You know, it was only 2 years after it, so it felt like it was still quite fresh. Whereas when you look back now, it's not aged as well as maybe the first one. And good set pieces in it, and the bit that's a bit ridiculous is where he's in the cockpit and they're throwing grenades, and then he pulls the ejector seat and goes away in the air and stuff. But maybe that's part of the fun of it. But a good film, a good sequel. Much better than what was to follow, put it that way.
It did take a lot of time for those grenades to blow up. When I was watching it the other day,
took 2 years.
It's like, when are these grenades going to blow up?
Yeah, Luke had just said the same thing to me this afternoon. And what was that all about, those grenades? I mean, would terrorists really have grenades that took 30 seconds to go off?
Well, Bruce Willis had a beard by the time you see him
go off, by the way. I mean, I've never thrown one, you know.
That's right, you're right, Paul. Bruce Willis went bald by the time the grenades went off.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, actually, I love this movie. I think it was a Saturday morning at the Odeon was seen it, Paul?
It was at the Odeon, I remember that.
Yeah.
It was at the Odeon. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I know it's basically Die Hard in an airport. It's Christmas, terrorists seize control of property, they want something, local law enforcement is a joke, John McClane's wife is in danger because of an incident, and John McClane is the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time, often terrorists in a very interesting way. So it's in a lot of ways, it's the first one in an airport. But it's great entertainment. Like the first movie, it looks fabulous, it sounds great for another score by Michael Kamen, it's expertly directed by Rennie Harlin. I think Marv, the airport janitor, is good fun, as is the return of Thornberg. I love it when he gets zapped on the plane and the old woman walks over him at the end. Fred Thompson brings real weariness and gravitas to Trudeau, the head air traffic controller. And Lorenzo is a great douchebag of a police captain. The negatives... Now, I like William Sadler. William Sadler's actually an excellent actor, but his Colonel Stewart is no Hans Gruber. And what's with the gratuitous naked scene at the beginning? I don't know. Do you guys jump out of bed in the morning naked and kind of practice martial arts naked in front of your mirrors, or just me that doesn't do that?
Every morning,
the fact that he's got balance and poise and can throw those moves on the wings of an aeroplane to take off.
You've got to practice you never know when that might happen. So take my hat off to him, but at least I'm wearing the hat. The terrorists are not as interesting as the ones from the first movie. They've not got as much individuality, although a number of them would go on to become prominent actors, not least Robert Patrick. Obviously would go on to play the evil Terminator in Terminator 2 and lots of other roles, and John Leguizamo as well. He's one of the terrorist guys, yeah. And I think the return of Powell in this from Die Hard 1 feels a little bit shoehorned in, but, but Bruce Willis brings action and laughs again in as McClane, and we're happy to ride along with him, and I have a great time watching this Christmas movie.
And of course, this would be the last one that you'd see Holly McClane.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, let's go round everybody again to see if we decide if it remains in the series or not. So I'll go first this time. Should Die Hard 2 be in here? Absolutely. Paul?
Yes.
Luke?
Yeah.
Ross?
It's a 10 for me.
And Davie?
Oh, yes.
So another clean sweep. So we've got Die Hard 1 and 2 that are worthy of being in the franchise.
John McClane, NYPD.
On a good day, he's a great cop.
You don't like me because I'm white. I don't like you because you're going to get me killed.
On a bad day, he's the best there is. On May 19th, McClane is back.
You got a AAA card?
Bruce Willis, Die Hard, this time with a vengeance. Rated R.
Was putting on this character like wearing an old shoe again?
Well, in some respects, yeah. I didn't have to go and spend long hours puzzling out how am I going to play this character, We created some new circumstances for him. We started him off at a very low point, that he is estranged from his wife. Doesn't see his kids. Drinks way too much. Been suspended from the police force. And on the day we find him, he has a very bad headache.
Are you any different physically today than you were 8 years ago when you first did Die Hard?
I'm much older, much more fragile. The bones are going, the knees are shot.
You didn't sprain your ankle or sprain anything?
The left hook is not crisp anymore. I almost got killed in this movie in Die Hard 3. I almost fell to my death. Seriously.
Has that ever happened before? You almost got hurt? Or have you ever been hurt?
Yeah, I've almost been killed a few times, never on a film before. I almost drowned a couple years ago doing some whitewater rafting. But you can only die once, right?
Except for that final 10 minutes feeling very tacked on, Die Hard 3 is one of my favorite 90s action movies. In fact, it's just one of my favorite action movies, period. I'm going to give Die Hard with a Vengeance an A-.
Turn our attention to the third movie, which was Die Hard with a Vengeance, which was released in 1995. So for this one, Detective John McClane is now divorced, an alcoholic, and jobless. I tell you, that's not the best. After getting fired for his reckless behaviour and bad attitude. He is called into action, however, when a cryptic terrorist, played by Jeremy Irons, takes New York City hostage in a lethal game of Simon Says, and refuses to speak with anyone but McClane. Teaming up with a street-savvy electrician named Zeus Carver, played by Samuel L. Jackson, McClane dashes through the city, trying to stay one step ahead of a murderous plot. So this movie was the highest grossing in the series yet. It grossed $366 million worldwide. It was the #1 grossing movie of 1995. Now, on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 59% score, so that is down on Die Hard 2. The critics on IMDb have it at 58 out of 100 on the Metascore there, so again, that's down. Audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 83%, so that's actually 13% up on Die Hard 2. And on IMDb, the audience rating there is 7.6 out of 10, and that is 0.5 up on Die Hard 2. And as a summary, Die Hard with a Vengeance gets off to a fast start and benefits from Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson's barbed interplay, but clatters to a bombastic finish in a vain effort to cover over for an overall lack of fresh ideas. So Luke, I'm going to go to you this time. What do you think of Die Hard with a Vengeance, the third one, which had Samuel L. Jackson?
I think it was all right. I think it was really trying to recreate how well they'd done with the first movie, and like trying to bring Hans Gruber's brother, trying to revive that sort of character, and I really think that Samuel Jackson done really well playing what was his name?
Zeus.
Yeah, I really like that chemistry between him and John McClane, and I'm quite surprised with the Rotten Tomatoes score. I thought that'd be a bit lower.
Oh, really?
But with the audience one. But yeah, I think it was all right. I don't think I would watch it again though.
Okay, Roscoe.
I completely agree with just what Luke said. I think it's probably a bit of two halves, and the plus is the strength is the interplay between John McClane and Samuel Jackson's character. That works pretty well, and obviously you've got the games that they're playing as well, so there's a bit of tension in that. But the downside is Jeremy Irons is a brilliant actor, and I've seen him in loads of other stuff. He is a brilliant actor, but it's just woeful as a villain, and obviously shoehorning in that it's he's Hans Gruber's brother. Yeah, you maybe just that you were saying, Stephen, around the lack of ideas. Just think this was the kind of the beginning and the end. I think for any sort of ideas of future Die Hard films were pretty poor, and at the end he just went a bit. I know the first two are far fetched to a point, but I thought towards the end of this one it just started to get a bit ridiculous, and that probably just moved on to the other two films as well. So all in all, pretty average, and it's really saved by Samuel Jackson and Bruce Willis, I think.
Where did you first see it, Ross?
Where did I see it? Good question. I think I've seen the pictures. I think it was 95, wasn't it? 95. Was it a 15, was it?
I think so, yeah.
So potentially I would have been 16 by that point. So yeah, probably seen it in the pictures. If not, it would have been a video. So one of the two. I can't mind seeing it in the pictures. Let's put it this way.
It made such a strong impression.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the ones. I probably enjoyed it more at the time, but since watching it, about like two, I've probably. But I think it's a poorer film than two, by quite a bit.
Yeah, for me now, I watched this on TV, and I can't believe I missed it at the cinema since I was such a big fan of Die Hard 1 and 2. But I kind of take the opposing view to you, Ross. I think it's a great movie, and it actually gets better with age. I thought it was great to have director John McTiernan back, and he does a great job here. I think it's nice that McClane's not confined to a single location this time round. He's going all over New York City. I think the plot is clever, and you have an excellent build-up to the actual crime, the robbery of stealing the gold. I think, yeah, Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson are a great double act. They're very funny together. And there's actually a lot of humour throughout the movie, I think, with McClane's interactions with, Samuel L. Jackson, but also with his police colleagues and with Simon, the bad guy. I think Jeremy Irons is the second best villain in the series, and I love the way he struts around, although, yes, he's certainly not on par with Hans Gruber, that's for sure. And then a couple of interesting facts, guys. Did you know that the script was actually intended for a film called Simon Says, and it was actually going to be Bruce Lee's son, Brandon Lee. It was going to be a vehicle for him, and the character of Zeus was actually written with an actress in mind. And what then happened is Warner Bros. Bought the script, and then they wanted to rewrite it as a Lethal Weapon sequel. So that didn't happen because Warner Bros. Put the script in turnaround. Then Fox purchased it, and they rewrote it as a Die Hard film. So it was a long way to get to be a Die Hard movie. And do you know who was originally offered the part of Zeus Carver? Anybody know?
Yep.
Who was it, Davey?
No, I don't know.
Oh, you don't? It was...
Murphy?
No, it was Lawrence Fishburne. He was officially... Yeah, he was officially offered it. But he was haggling over his fee, and what then happened is Bruce Willis and whoever was the producer of Die Hard 3 were at the Cannes Film Festival and they seen Pulp Fiction, and Samuel L. Jackson was there, and their producers went, "You've got the role, come on, come and be in the movie." So what happened is Lawrence Fishburne then sued the producer and won some money because they'd had a verbal agreement that he was going to be in the movie. I'm sure Lawrence Fishburne would have been good, but this role was made for Samuel L. Jackson, wasn't it? Yeah. Davey, what do you think about the movie?
Oh, Samuel L. Jackson is on top form in this movie. Don't really know where it sits in his career because I've never looked at him, but I imagine it's probably pretty early on in his career because it's like 1995, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
think Pulp Fiction was his...
Before or after
Pulp Fiction was 94, that was his big breakthrough, wasn't it? Pulp Fiction.
He used to be in quite a lot of Spike Lee movies, and he's always like stand out and like do the right thing. And
Time to Kill, as Ross says, yeah.
Yeah. But no, that as I say, I see us on this in a cinema on a ferry going to France. Me and my cousin had a few hours to kill, and that was on. We went in there and we absolutely loved it. Rewatching it now, I can see why, because again you've got John McTiernan's come back, and so much better at directing movies than Rennie Harlan. They seem a lot more realistic. They're certainly not over the top or like Panto Hammy-esque. Where the dynamic between John McClane and Zeus, it just brings on so much. It's so funny, but also kind of talks about black and white culture at the time and how both mistrust each other, which is, well, still to this day I think it would be in, but how they can get past the differences to do what they need to do. I mean, even like at the start, just to get Samuel L. Jackson to come along, he has to lie to him to tell him where the bomb is, saying it's in a black neighbourhood, so he'll be coming, rather than when it really was, they thought it was in a Chinatown, and that's like he'd be like, right, away him. But the way it talks on the racial element of it is, it's really good the way that it highlights it at its time. But the film itself, it seems a lot more realistic than Die Hard 2, certainly. It's one of these films that you can just, me personally, I just love it, the way the dynamic between the two of them is. And Jeremy Irons, I think, is a great baddie. The way they hark back to the Hans Gruber thing, it's good, and the way they set up all the like the games to try and distract the NYPD in the end, and how it works by them saying like the next game there's a school that's going to blow up and you don't know which one, so they've obviously mobilised everyone to go and search for the bomb in the school, and that just leaves Jeremy Irons to do his dastardly deeds in the Federal Reserve Bank. No, I think it's a great film. I really enjoy it. I'd say it's definitely ranked above Die Hard 2 for me.
Thanks, Davey. And last but not least, Paul.
Yeah, I remember going to see it in the summer of '95, and it was funny because the Die Hard films were always quite, previous to that, they were in winter and it was dark, and whereas this one was like in the summer and it was light, so it was quite different in that sense, the feel of the film. And I don't think it's a great film, and I think it was around this time, I suppose as well, that Bruce Willis was massive at this time. He'd just done Pulp Fiction the year before, as had Samuel L. Jackson, of course. I think they had a good on-screen chemistry, but it was almost like at this point, like when I think to the start of the film, where John McClane's got hangover and stuff, it's almost like a parody. It's almost like a Hale and Pace sketch or something, like I just felt a bit formulaic and just not very good. And I liked Jeremy Irons as an actor, but I didn't like his role in this. And it felt like a long film as well, and it was probably not that much longer than the other two, but it felt a bit longer. And it just didn't. I remember at the time it didn't feel like it belonged in the Die Hard franchise because it was quite different. But it was a product of its time, I suppose. Yeah, because although Die Hard 2 was 1990, it was pretty much an 80s film. Really, it was still, a lot of it probably still been filmed in '89. So, whereas this one was like right in the middle of the '90s. So a lot of change since then. So it probably reflected that. But it's not a great film. It's for me, just kind of it's on that downward slope now, really.
So, okay, thanks, Paul. Have any of you guys ever watched the original ending for the movie, which the cut and spent a lot of money doing an action-packed final scene? You've seen it just recently. What did you think of it compared to the theatrical cut ending? What did you think, Luke?
I think it was I'm not too sure. I think the ending that they went with was probably the right choice because I've only seen it one time, but I think it just makes I don't think the ending that the main character played in the last ending really matched his character very well. But I don't think people would have really enjoyed a conversation more than a big action explosion, a big action scene.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else seen it?
I think I can't remember it, but I think I would have had it on the DVD extras years ago.
Yeah, I mean it's basically you've got what's happened is McClane's been fired from his job and he's back with Holly and his kids and everything, but got fired, he's cleaned up, he's not drinking anymore, and he's then went to track down the Jeremy Irons character, who's obviously gone off with the gold, and they basically play Russian roulette with a bazooka. And Jeremy Irons loses. And it was cut because I think the studio thought it made McClane look a little bit too cruel, and maybe it just wasn't action-packed enough as the climax of the movie, but although it's a very cool scene. Davey, Ross, you guys seen it?
I've not.
I've seen you posted it the other night, and I'm meant to watch it before we came on here, but I never got around to it.
Yeah, it's worth checking out, and for those listening, join our Facebook group, and you'll see that we posted it there. So it plays with the original scene, then it plays a second time with the writer of the movie providing commentary for it, which is pretty interesting. And I think you can safely say he prefers his original written ending, which was cut. All right, guys, let's
The one that just while we're talking about it, the one that I always like is the Simon Says when they do the thing of filling up the bottles to get the 4 gallons. It always takes me a wee while to work out how they've done that. Like, I always need to go and like how does that work again? Like, and then once you look at the maths, it takes me a while. But I think we had that in when we did the Crystal Maze. That was one of the things to get a crystal when we were down there, Steve.
Yeah,
and we were like, Die Hard, think Die Hard.
I think under time pressure, it went right out the window, didn't it? I think we would have been blown up, Davie. Okay, guys, let's go around and see if Die Hard with a Vengeance deserves to be in the series. So, Luke, I'm coming to you first. Yes or no?
I think I would keep it as a Die Hard trilogy and then leave it at that and don't go any further but which they did.
Okay.
Then we'll get onto that, but yeah.
I don't think you're going to be along in that thinking, so we'll see. Yes, Ross?
Oh, brilliant. Look, no, not for me.
Okay, Paul?
Yeah, I would keep it in. It's not a great film, but yeah, keep it in.
Davie?
100% keep it in.
So yes from me as well. So Die Hard with a Vengeance stays in. So we've got ourselves a trilogy. We've got ourselves a trilogy. What's a trilogy? We've got a trilogy as well.
America loves Live Free or Die Hard. It's the best movie of the summer.
Time's over, sweetheart.
2 thumbs up.
Did you see that? Yes, I thought I did it.
It's a jaw-dropping summer blockbuster. Live Free or Die Hard. Rated PG-13. Now playing.
So here we are to talk
Here we
about...
are, talking about Live Free or Die Hard.
Exactly.
As if we had a choice.
And we have this Eurocopter behind us here.
I do see that.
And so that's got to have something to do with Live Free or Die Hard.
It doesn't have anything to do with Live Free or Die Hard. It's just a helicopter that I think they borrowed from Team America, the movie. It doesn't have anything to do with Die Hard. I mean, there are helicopters in Live Free or Die Hard, but they're not painted quite like this.
You have them in freeway chases and things. I saw it. It's good. It's good.
There's some kind of chase. It's with a jet, not with a helicopter. But there's a chase actually in downtown D.C. But it's a military chopper, Bobby.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think the military paints the helicopters stars and stripes.
Not as of now. They're not.
No.
So.
Not yet.
Not
yet.
So
although there's a bill on the Senate floor, I'm told.
And you're supporting it?
No.
No,
I've given up on politics.
Have you really?
Politics broke my heart, Bobby.
Are you serious? Because...
No, I'm not serious.
No.
All right, let's get right to it. Our first movie is Live Free or Die Hard. This is the 4th installment in the franchise that catapulted Bruce Willis to stardom nearly 20 years ago. Now, I'd say John McClane is one of my 3 favorite rebel cops of the last 30 years, along with Dirty Harry Callahan and Lethal Weapon's Martin Riggs. This isn't the best or the most exciting Die Hard, but it is a lot of fun. The bullet-headed Willis is in classic wisecracking why me form as he's once again thrust into the middle of a cataclysmic disaster. And that's Justin Long. He's kind of the go-to guy these days to play cynical, ultra-smart geeks. He's very good here. He plays Matt Farrell, a young computer hacker who unwittingly contributed to what is known as a fire sale. That's a multi-tiered breakdown of our computer-controlled world. The gorgeous and scary Maggie Q plays a kick-ass villain, but the chief bad guy is Timothy Oliphant's Thomas Gabriel.
So let's move on to 2007 in Die Hard 4.0. So a 12-year gap between movies here. And in this one, we have, as the US prepares to celebrate Independence Day, veteran cop John McClane carries out another routine assignment, bringing in a computer hacker played by Justin Long for questioning. Meanwhile, a tech-savvy villain named Thomas Gabriel, played by Timothy Oliphant, launches an attack on America's computer infrastructure. As chaos descends around him, McClane must use old-fashioned methods to fight the high-tech threat. So this movie grossed $388 million worldwide. Now, bearing in mind, that is just a little bit more than Die Hard 3, which was 12 years prior. It was the 12th highest grossing movie of 2007. Now, this is where I couldn't believe it. On Rotten Tomatoes, critics, it's got an 82% score, which I just can't quite believe. On IMDb, it's got a 69 out of 100 critic Metascore. Audience side of things, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's 86% fresh. And on IMDb, 7.1 out of 10. And as a summary, on the television show, Ebert and Roper, film critic Richard Roper and guest critic Catherine Tulich gave the film 2 thumbs up, with Roper stating that the film is not the best or the most exciting Die Hard, but it is a lot of fun, and that it is his favourite among the Die Hard sequels. Roper also remarked, Willis is in top form in his career-defining role. So I'm going to go straight to you, Ross, for your thoughts. So where did you see Die Hard 4.0 and what are your thoughts on it?
So I seen it last week for the first time on Disney Plus. To pretty much, because I knew they were doing this podcast, so I knew I had to. It was one of the ones I was going to get round to watching, but I think the amount, every time I asked somebody about the film, it pretty much wasn't a great review. So it probably just put you off. So last week I watched it. It's I'll probably toss it between that and the fifth one, but it probably is the purest by quite a bit. I mean, it's not the worst film I've ever seen, but it's probably not that far away from being the worst. And I'm quite surprised actually what you're saying there in terms of critics and audience reviews, and very surprised. I'm not surprised that it done well at the box office because it's 12 years, isn't it? So there's an anticipation, but other than that, it just a film that, talk about over the top, it just took it to another level. And I think once things have become a bit over the top, they become a bit boring actually. So I actually find the film actually relatively boring in the main. And its weakest thing is probably its villain. Is the most blandest villain that I think I've seen in a film probably ever. And it feels as if Bruce Willis is just kind of going through the motions, rather than I'm actually acting. So I kind of works towards it. Yeah, like you say, 2-dimensional villains. And probably if there's a plus, it's probably a young guy that plays the computer guy.
Justin Long.
I thought he was actually really good in that. So it's like anything, you always look for things that, what, is there anything good in it? Then I thought he was actually quite a good actor in it. And he was quite a believable character, he was quite good in it. But the film as a whole was just pretty bang average, wasn't it? You just expect more, I think, and spending maybe a bit more time on a script, which is really what they should have done, rather than concentrate too much on the action. Which is maybe it's just a modern issue, maybe with films, that they spend too much time on CGI rather than in character and funny scripts that are important as well. So, yeah, absolute pure film, absolute shocker.
Okay, Ross, thank you. Paul?
Yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of what Ross is saying there. I remember being quite excited when it came out, going to see it in the cinema. I think at that time as well, because I was quite surprised to know that it was the most successful at the box office of all the Die Hard films. But at that time, it was that sort of renaissance time, like a lot of comebacks, because you had like Rambo, Rocky, Die Hard,
Indiana Jones.
So you had all these films coming out. So I think it probably that carried some of it, I think. And like we're saying, the 12 years gap between that and the third one. But to be honest, for me, it might actually be the weakest out of all the films. and it's just quite boring, and some of the CGI is quite bad in it as well, and yeah, just kind of echo what Ross was saying. The baddie in it's a terrible baddie. He's not good in it at all, and I thought Elizabeth Winstead was quite good. Lucy McClane.
Oh, funny you liked that part, Paul.
But it's funny how she's changed since. Lucy McClane speaking. She's changed a lot in those years, and
she is 20 years older.
Yeah. But so it's and just like the guy calling him McClane all the time, it's just a bit like cheesy, really. It's like, does nobody ever call him John? It's like it's got to be McClane all the time.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Paul. Luke, what about you?
I found it very, very boring because I just thought pretty much just what the other two, Paul and Ross said. It just you pretty much get to like the hour mark, and then it just starts to feel like they went to 2 power plants, and then it's like, wait, this isn't the last battle, or it just the villain as well. He seems quite whiny when he's like he's not getting his own way and stuff. In the when John McClane's like taking out his guards and his plans and stuff, and it's pretty much just a pretty rubbish movie. I think I would it's probably in the maybe top 10 or top 5 worst movies I've ever seen in my life. But I do think that the 5th one is worse though, because and that's, I would never watch it again. That's all I've really got to say about it.
So you're saying you didn't like it, Luke?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Do you have a 1 power plant only rule in your movies?
No, it's not even that. It's
two's just going over the top?
No, it's just how you have it, just because they're 2 quite big action scenes, and you normally like have like such a big action scene as in, I don't know, another good movie for example, but it's 2 big action scenes back to back, and then you just sort of think, oh, it's 2 back to back. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Luke. Davie, you're going to come to the rescue of Die Hard 4.0, aren't you?
You know what? I actually am, I think. To be fair, I have only seen it twice. First time was in the cinema when it actually came out, and I'd say I enjoyed it as for what it was. Without being anything brilliant, it was more comedic than previous Die Hard movies, and the comedy was good. Justin Long, like, you're normally used to seeing him in things like Galaxy Quest and Dodgeball, playing an absolute dweeb. So I thought his casting was actually quite good, because you didn't expect that from him, but his one-liners and his interplay with John McClane, I've quite enjoyed, to be fair. I think with the film, and it also features one of the all-time great set pieces, which just makes you absolutely laugh out loud when you watch it, when he sticks the car into the helicopter and you're like, come on, but actually go on, that's actually brilliant. I really enjoyed that helicopter being taken down by that car. It was so over the top, but
it could happen, Davie. It could happen.
Well, it obviously did, because that car went into that helicopter. And the stuntman fell out of the helicopter.
And survived.
So it's obviously possible in some realm, but watching it again, like, I think must have been last night or the night before, as soon as that happened, I just burst out laughing and went, actually, that just saves the film, that one set piece there. But to carry on, I think where it lets down is when I think in television terms, when a programme goes past its best, they say it's jumped the shark, based on when that's the moment in time when Happy Days went from being a good TV show to a bad TV show when the Fonz jumped a shark on his motorbike, and that's become the term for when something is past its best. Oh, the show's jumped the shark. I think Die Hard 4 took it to the next level when John McClane jumped the fighter jet. That's when it went past. It was like, oh, come, what are you doing here?
That was real life, Davey.
Getting chased for... It just went a bit ridiculous there. Still, it'll make you smile, but it's just gone so far away from what it started off as.
Yeah.
Like the first hour or so of the film, the interplay between like Justin Long and Bruce Willis, I thought was brilliant, and it was a bit more edgy, and it was funny, and like, as I say, when I first saw that car going to the helicopter, I was like almost kind of cheering my seat, going, "Yeah, get in there, John McClane."
Yeah.
Then it just lets itself down at the end.
Now the thing with the guy that falls out the helicopter onto the car survives. Now the thing that you think about is, how did he get back to the base? Right, he's obviously injured and he's wandering along a freeway. Does he get a taxi or something? I mean, is he carrying a wallet? I mean,
probably just done a John McClane and just...
Probably, yeah, just stones one. Yeah, my thoughts on it. I've seen this at the cinema on its original release in 2007, and I think it's a decent action movie. It's the first Die Hard movie in the UK to not be a 15 or 18. It was a 12A. I do think it's overlong, and I agree with what you guys have said. I think it loses steam as it progresses. I think it's competently directed by Len Wiseman. I think it actually does have a very timely, interesting story, the fire sale story. I think there's some inventive action scenes. The Jeep in the lift. Car versus helicopter, yeah.
How long was that building that he drove that lassie through? I mean, he must have gone through about 6 rooms before they got that elevator.
Oh yeah, it was great. Yeah, for me, I do feel Bruce Willis is actually engaged, and it still feels like John McClane in this one, whereas the sequel to this definitely doesn't. I think you guys have mentioned already. I think Bruce Willis and Justin Long make an amusing double act, much like the Samuel L. Jackson one. You've got the tech-savvy millennial and the old-school action hero. I think Maggie Q is a good female action villain. Timothy Olyphant is no Hans Gruber, but he does have a couple of good snarky one-liners in there. I thought the whole thing with Kevin Smith's Warlock was funny. You know, these guys that are in their basements online giving themselves fancy names, still living at home. So I found that amusing. It does miss a Michael Kamen score. He passed away sadly in, was it 2003 or 5? So obviously we don't get a Michael Kamen score this time. But overall, for me, in the grand scheme of things of the series, it does feel like a bit of a unnecessary epilogue. So let's go round, everyone, to see if we think it is deserving of being in the Die Hard series. So Luke, I'm going to come to you first. Does it deserve to be in the series?
No.
Ross?
Nope.
Davey?
You know...
Is it a prime cut or is it awful?
It's halfway in between, but I'm going to say, well, we'll have to say no. It nearly got there.
Okay. Paul?
No way should that be in. No.
That'll be a no then.
Strong no.
And for me, actually, it's an alright movie, but is it up to Die Hard standards? No. So, that's the first film of the Die Hard series that we don't think deserves to be in there.
Does anybody know why the different title for the UK and the US?
I think it was because it was meant to tie in with the 4th of July and Independence Day in America when it came out. They released it, yeah. Although I believe the director and Bruce Willis did prefer Die Hard 4.0, and I think it is now officially referred to as Die Hard 4.0.
Yeah.
From what I gather.
Right. Die Hard 4.0 on Disney.
Yep, definitely.
I was kind of thinking to myself, because I was trying to remember the name of the last film. I'm like, was it Live Free or Die Hard? And then I went, oh, it's Good Day to Die Hard. I'm like, where did I get Live Free or Die Hard come from?
Nah, that's it.
That explains it.
That's it.
Knock, knock.
Yippee-ki-yay.
The 007 of Plainfield, New Jersey.
Experience it in IMAX February 14. This film is not yet rated.
I think that I've learned more from the films that I've done that have not done so well. That I think I learned more from those mistakes and what not to do and what works and what doesn't. I think more and more with this character, I just try to keep it simpler, and it seems to work. And I like the idea that through all 5 of these films, there's been a center of some kind of family conflict, which gets that family drama and then family comedy out of it.
Unsurprisingly, and it has to be said rather unfortunately, the equally nonsensically titled A Good Day to Die Hard continues down this route, with the seemingly indestructible John McClane defying death in even more preposterous ways. It opens with our hero heading to Russia to rescue his estranged son Jack, who's ended up in jail while working as a spy. Cue a slew of predictable fish-out-of-water gags as John struggles to navigate his way through Moscow.
Do you think I understand a word you're saying?
Do you know what I hate about the Americans? Everything.
Recently, Bruce Willis has said that people prefer the Die Hard stories when they have a familial element to them, so here we get some awkward father-son bonding. But let's be honest here, it's the action that gets people watching the Die Hard movies, and admittedly Die Hard 5, as everyone is going to end up calling it, has no shortage of carnage and destruction. Trouble is, in director John Moore's hands, this action gets confusing, and while a handful of stunts are truly spectacular, it does feel like they'd be more suited to a Wile E. Coyote cartoon than a believable action character.
Right, guys, have you got your knives sharpened for the final movie? A Good Day to Die Hard 2013, also known as the franchise killer. A Good Day to Die Hard 2013. In this one, we've got New York City cop John McClane arriving in Moscow to track down his estranged son, who is Jack, played by Jay Courtney. McClane thinks his son is a criminal, so it comes as a shock when he learns that Jack is actually working undercover to protect Komarov, played by Sebastian Koch, a Russian government whistleblower. With their own lives on the line, McClane and Jack must overcome their differences in order to get Komarov to safety and thwart a potentially disastrous crime in the Chernobyl region. Now, this movie grossed $304 million worldwide. It was only the 24th highest grossing movie of 2013. The Rotten Tomatoes critic score, you want to have a guess, guys?
34.
15%. So that is, yes. Was it using Rotten Tomatoes? It's either fresh or stale. Is it stale? So most definitely stale. On IMDb, the critic score there, the Metascore was 28 out of 100. The Rotten Tomatoes audience score was down at 40%, and on IMDb, the audience rating was 5.3. So those are all significant drops based on the prior movies. And as a summary, A.O. Scott of the New York Times described A Good Day to Die Hard as a handful of extended set pieces, each more elaborate and therefore somehow less exciting than the last, linked by a simple-minded plot and a handful of half-clever lines. Though complimenting the special effects, he criticises the direction of John Moore, the lack of style, and writes that everything that made the first Die Hard memorable, the nuances of character, the political subtext, the cowboy wit, has been dumbed down or scrubbed away entirely. So, Davie, I'm going to come to you first for Die Hard 5. What did you think of it? And when did you first see it?
Well, the first time I saw it was about 2 days ago. I don't know how I've never got round to seeing it before. Certainly never went to see it in the cinema. It reminds me of that scene in is it the Muppets Christmas Carol, where they just lambast it. It's like it was terrible, it was horrible, it was short. I mean, I loved it. That's the best thing about it. It was 98 minutes long, and it's saved a half hour of my life that I would normally have to give to one of these movies because they're always over 2 hours. The premise seems a bit ridiculous. Just walk up to Moscow and find this courthouse where his son's in, and it's all just going to blow up, and he's going to ruin everything by stopping his son's car or getaway van. It's just, I just don't know what to say about it. It's just like come so far from where we first started. I don't know how often he needs to say, "I'm on vacation," before he get a laugh. I mean,
don't get me started. That was just doing my head in.
That wasn't funny the first time, mate.
Yeah.
No matter how many times you say you're on vacation, I'm going to go, oh, what a great one line from John McClane.
Yeah.
The double cross is just like, it's not that you can see it coming. You're just like, oh, man, this isn't even worth my time. It's a twist in the storyline. And then, lo and behold, let's just turn up to Chernobyl when no form of protection whatsoever, and then just cut about there. I think they had a plot point where he sprayed some stuff that made it absolutely the radiation disappear, which I'm sure if that was true, they would have done it a long, long time ago. And then they end up falling into this, what you can only assume is radioactive water, but he said, no, that's just rainwater. Okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
We've saved ourselves by diving in this pool. And the twist is, you finally called me Dad. No, shocking.
Yeah. Okay, Davie, not a fan. Luke, what did you think of this?
I think it seemed a bit like Sharknado, a little bit.
Sharknado's a lot better than this.
But yeah, I think it felt a lot less of a blockbuster movie, more of like a TV movie that you probably see and turn on for a little bit. And then I think it just loses the character of John McClane. I think if it was just a standalone movie and it didn't have him in it, I think it would be a little bit better, but probably not a lot. And I do think it is probably the weakest in the series, just because there's not much character development. It's just pretty much just cars getting run over for 20 minutes. And then I don't really know what else to say. I don't think I even really finished watching it.
I think you said, Luke, when you were watching it, you went, "Look, this doesn't feel like a Die Hard movie."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't, because I don't really get the son either. I don't really understand that. I don't know.
And I think you also said it looks like a cheap movie Granny would watch in the afternoon.
Yeah, or Grandad. Yeah. So,
Okay, thanks, Luke. Let the hate continue, Ross. Go.
I love it. No, I'm joking. Definitely not. But probably the things that kind of keep in mind. I mean, I think it's marginally better than the fourth one, probably based on the villains are a bit more believable, a bit more convincing. But yeah, the things I kind of noticed was probably in the first half an hour of the film, it felt as if it was trying to be a bit like a Bourne film, Bourne Identity, in terms of the camera shots and just all that. Just felt as if it's like subpar Bourne, a Jason Bourne film. So I thought with that, and then the lack of police. I mean, absolute carnage in the ring road in Moscow. Where was the police? I mean, they were nowhere. It's a bit over the top. I mean, there was just some of that stuff was just way over the top. But it felt as if it was going a step further. But I think Davie had mentioned around it was shorter, so that definitely was a plus over the fourth one. Not much more to say than that. And I thought the guy that played the son he was relatively alright, actually. I don't think he was necessarily terrible, but the film just needed a better script. It probably could have been a decent film if it just had been made better. I think that's where you realise Die Hard isn't just about, it's got a brilliant script and it's got brilliant characters and cameos, but it's a really well made film. And it still is a really well made film. And don't underestimate that. And I think they've not really done that. And I think that probably after 2, really, that the films haven't necessarily been a great made films. But this one's, it's almost a bit like, it's just pointless. I mean, why are we watching this film? Why have you made this film? I mean, it's completely pointless. And like you say, Stephen, if it does kill the franchise, then great. That's a plus. So yeah, a bit of a honker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the whole try to be a Bourne movie, the whole shaky cam thing. Yeah, totally agree with you. And yeah, I mean, there's really not much else you can say about it. Paul?
I remember before it came out, I used to get when I was at cinema, you get like a movie magazine there with upcoming films, and I remember seeing this. I didn't even realise they were making a new Die Hard film. So it was almost like it was quite low key almost when it came out. Probably because I didn't have that big expectation of it. So I thought it was okay, but like we were saying, I don't know. It might be because of the duration time as well, but it just felt like I preferred it to the fourth one, and it might be just purely the time difference. And I do get what you're saying. It is a bit like the way it's filmed is a bit like Jason Bourne, you know, how it's quite dark the way it's filmed and stuff. So it is a bit like that. And the guy that plays his son, that's another one, McClane, and he's in a van and he's saying McClane all the time, and he just happens to bump into his son in Moscow, as you do. And I mean, the son's actually, he's an Australian actor. I think his son's the son in it's a good actor, but it's just a bit cliched. But it's better than the fourth one, so I think that's the only thing I can take from it. But a sad end to what we think is the end to the franchise, really.
Yeah. But yes, thank you for that, Paul. For me, I was very excited for this movie because, you know, it's from the director of video game adaptation Max Payne and the remakes of Flight of the Phoenix and The Omen. I mean, why would you not be excited? Heavy sarcasm there.
I said what?
Heavy sarcasm. I've only ever seen it once before. Avoided it at the cinema based on the trailers and the reviews. So I eventually seen it on streaming and hated it. I really hated it. It actually made me angry. Maybe not up to the level of Alien Covenant angry, but angry nevertheless. It's a Die Hard movie in name only. It should have been called Die Slowly, the Bruce Willis pension plan. It's a boring, generic action movie. It's dreary looking. I think there's bad cinematography there. I think it makes Die Hard 4 look like a classic. I think Bruce Willis sleepwalks through it. It really, really sleepwalks through it. I think the humour in it's lame. I think McClane's one-liners fall flat. As I think Davie said, how many times does McClane say he's on vacation? And it never raises a laugh once. It's a weak story. Everything seems set up just to blow up. It actually feels more like a computer game than a movie. We've gone from Hans Gruber to forgettable, generic Russian villains. We've gone from office workers, airline passengers, and the citizens of New York being in peril to having to care about something related to national security. It's only 90 minutes long, which is merciful, but actually does feel longer. In summary, re-watching it again, it was just as poor as I remember it being. And yeah, it's not a Die Hard movie for me. Not a Die Hard movie. So guys, we'll go around and decide if this should be part of the franchise. I think I know what the answer to this is going to be. So I will kick us off this time and say no, it should be nowhere near the Die Hard franchise. Ross?
No.
Luke?
No chance.
Paul?
No.
Davie?
Oh, hell no.
Alrighty, so after all that, we have 1, 2, and 3 making it, and 4 and 5 have been erased from history, if only. So I'll maybe just go down before we finish up, guys, and just get your ranking of these movies. I'll maybe kick us off. So it's nice and easy for me. I basically have them in the order of release, 1 through to 5. I think we'll start off with the best, and I'm big fans of 2 and 3 as well. But I think in terms of enjoyment, the kind of go down the way, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What about you, Ross?
Yes, I think the first is clearly way ahead of the others, an absolute classic. And yeah, after that, the quality just maybe not hugely, but just gradually falls by the wayside. And if I'm really honest, I think it should have just been a standalone film on its own, and probably being cherished even more. But we know that doesn't happen when it comes to action films. So so in terms of that, totally agree. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, disagree. 1, 2, 3, 5, and 4. I think 4 was the worst of the lot, probably based on the villain.
Okay, 5 Ross. Davie?
I think 1 and 2 make a great double bill on Christmas Eve.
Yep.
And this is probably the second or third time I've done it. I think the only other time I've watched Die Hard 2 on Christmas Eve is when you forced me to watch it on like the 5th of December at your house. This is not how it works, Steve. It's a Christmas Eve movie. So you pretty much threw my Christmas that year. No, I would say for myself, I would go 1, 3, 2, and then 4, and I don't think the other one happened, did it?
No, there wasn't a part 5, was there? Alright, Luke?
I would probably say the order they came out.
Okay.
And I think, I don't think I would really ever watch the last 4 again. I think at Christmas Eve, or like around Christmas time, I would only really watch the first one. And I would really try and forget the other 4.
You're very harsh, Luke.
I know, it's just, it should have been a standalone film. If it was a standalone film, it would have been much better.
Simon says you're misbehaving. Okay, thank you, Luke. Paul?
Yeah, so I would have 5 first, 4 second. No, I'm joking. That would be 1, 2, 3, 5, 4. So the first 3 in order, and then the 5th one would be the 4th, and then the bottom of the pile would be the 4th one for me. Even though it's the highest grossing one out of them all, that's the purest for me.
Simon says it's time to put our gun in the holster and go home. So, if you want to join the discussions about movies and Die Hard, join our Facebook group and get involved. You make sure you subscribe to the podcast and get notified when a new episode is available. New episodes will be dropping monthly, and you can look forward to next month listening to our Home Alone series episode, followed by the 4 Jaws movies the month after. So look forward to recording those ones and rewatching Jaws the Revenge for the first time in 40 years or something like that. So thank you to all our guests this evening. So Luke, Davie and Ross. And I wish Luke and Davie a speedy recovery from COVID as well. And any final things you want to say, Paul, before we wind up?
No, thanks for Luke, Davie and Ross giving their time tonight as well. And no, thank you for sharing these experiences of these films. I hope people enjoy it.
Absolutely, yeah. So thanks to you for listening. So, I think we're all going to go now and watch the Man United v Burnley game, which has just started this second. So how about that for good timing? So, take care and goodbye.